okay, I will say this: I thought we had a running clock, and I forgot about the live button. Okay,
Yeah,
because I was sitting here going like, "Where's the timer?"
yeah. And I'm looking. There we go. We're live now.
Yeah, we can. I can see we're live now. So
Yeah, it's
for
it
the
is what
past
it is. Because I
15
was
minutes.
looking, are you guys able to watch us? And I was like looking on Facebook, and it's live television, so or live.
So all that discussion, we should we can do a recap.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Deutsche Bank is getting in trouble. They are having issues with coming up live. I mean, they're about to, according to some people, the panic bells are ringing. The Deutsche Bank they're too big to fail, and they're going to fail. And as I said, I think a lot of this stuff is the government trying. Joe Biden's off. Joe Biden's administration is trying to make basically they're just trying to panic, get people into a panic. So what will happen is they will go out and say, "Oh, please, Joe Biden, the Democrats, save us! Spend all this money that we don't have to spend."
Yeah, I mean, they already moved in the direction of. I mean, when when Silicon Valley Bank, basically,
Mhm.
ran out of money. I mean, we're reassuring everybody that your deposits are taken care of, and it
Yep.
didn't. They basically were saying, without the cap, without the standard, $250,000 cap, and
Mhm.
like, wait a minute, and it's like that's not what the insurance protection says. It's like, you put in more than what the FDIC guarantees. That's your problem. That's not the
Yep.
taxpayer's problem. Um,
Hmm.
I don't want to see I hate to see companies fail by that, but
Yeah.
why
But I mean, here's the thing: we've seen
why
a
why
lot
are
of.
you why are you sticking tens of millions of dollars in a
Mhm.
bank when when it's clear that it's $250,000 per account. That is, if you spread it out on multiple accounts, that's fine, but you'd have to have an incredibly enormous amount of accounts to spread the insurance.
Hmm.
Government comes in there and says, you're going to have access to all your money. You're like, that's not the way this whole thing was supposed to work. And
Yeah. Exactly. But it's one of those things. Is like it's like we've got there's a lot of crazy stuff happening right now, and people seem to, I don't get it, with the whole banking issues, people can't seem to get that up and running right, We've got issues with other, that are happening. I think a lot of this stuff is to distract from the real crisis, like the border, China, 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 and Ukraine is another one,
yeah,
It's
I
like,
mean, I just can't. Politicians would normally try to find something to deflect criticism from some of the failed policies. The problem right
mhm.
now is that all the stuff is just piling up, on Biden. And it's like, well, if you talk about the banking crisis, then people definitely be fearful. The stock market has been pretty bumpy. It's not really going anywhere. And so that has people and thinking about their 401ks and their balances there and all those kinds of things. So you've got that one issue, but as you mentioned, the border crisis, the
Yeah.
issues with China, the whole big dust up with TikTok and
Mhm.
trying to figure out what to do about TikTok. But there isn't anything that really benefits
Mhm.
Joe Biden at this stage because the Republicans are in control of Congress and they can do exactly what the Democrats did is kind of hold endless investigations
Yep.
on the Biden family. Uh,
And Joe Biden is. Let me tell you, he reminds you a lot of former president of Argentina, Galtieri. He was having low poll numbers. Nothing was going right in Argentina, and you know what he did to distract the country from the problems there? He invaded the Falkland Islands. Is Joe Biden gonna invade Cuba to distract from the failing economy?
No, I mean, if Biden decided to commit troops or something like that, that would focus attention on. I mean, because in general, I mean, the Biden administration has taken the right tack, on the whole Ukraine situation.
Well, yes, and I hate to give him credit for that too. And let me tell you, Ukraine, we could treat it just like we did with Angola. When we had the Angolian, we armed the freedom fighters in Angola. They overthrew the Marxists, and we didn't have a single boot on the ground. Nicaragua was another one. The Contras, we had a few CIA people there, but they're not really technically boots on the ground. They're we had a few mercenaries, but I mean nothing. We didn't have a single U.S. troop there.
Well,
We armed them, and I
yeah,
think
I mean,
that is
Poland's sending what fighter jets over there.
yeah.
I wouldn't. I mean, look, if NATO, members in Europe wanted to go in there and say, we're going to provide even more support and we'll throw some soldiers at it. I'm like,
Hmm.
go for it. You know,
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like this is kind of like they've seen this movie before. It's called the Serbian War. You know, NATO did it was a NATO action. But unfortunately they wanted America to lead. Come on, Europe, take the lead on this one. We'll give you all the guns and bombs you need, frankly. And we don't need to, you don't need to basically particularly be able to, what do you call? We don't need to put boots on the ground. We can do this just by arming them. We did that in Afghanistan. We gave them, you know, hindsight being 2020, perhaps we should have done it, but we drove the Soviets out. And how do we do that? We gave them Stinger missiles. We gave the Mujahideen Stinger missiles to take out, that basically crippled the Soviets' air campaign in Afghanistan. Uh, Again, hindsight being 2020, should we have done that? Maybe not. Maybe not. But we were, fighting the communists. Charlie Wilson, Democrat Charlie Wilson's war.
yeah.
But
I mean,
Ukraine.
the interest really. I mean, Europe has a great interest in trying to make sure that Russia doesn't
Mhm.
just swallow up Ukraine. So, I
But
think
if Ukraine goes down,
I
the
think the first
Baltics are
boots on the
next.
ground ought to be from
Yeah,
the European allies of NATO
absolutely.
jumping there, and then the countries also that are on the border that aren't members of NATO should say, yeah, we need to
Mhm.
do this too because it's in our best interest to do that. U.S. can backstop them with weapons and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
think that's fine, but the U.S. should get the other countries to take the lead for a change.
yeah, and we all know what the Ferengis say: war is good for business. You know, we can sell the weapons. There's a guy that has a journalism school, I believe, named after him at American Adnan Khashoggi, who, by the way, I cannot believe they had a hard time pronouncing his nephew's name when all through the 80s, arms dealer Adnan Khashoggi, they were able to say his name just fine. And then all of a sudden, when the Washington Post reporter, somebody Khashoggi, I forget the guy's first name, they all stumble over the words. They can't say Khashoggi. But it's one of those funny things. You've got the problem is, I mean, Ukraine, I think, I don't know how much longer the Russians can. I mean, I know the Russians kind of view this as a war of attrition and they'll probably win out, is what they're thinking. But there's got to be some enterprising general in Moscow that wants to take out Putin, basically. And then, and this war is it's not going nearly as well as, I mean, they were supposed to. Today, it should just be part of Mother Russia, Ukraine, and it should have been done in 6 days after they invaded. But it's not, and it's not going to be part of Mother Russia tomorrow, nor is it going to be the day after. You know,
Yeah,
and I think
this
serious
is
miscalculation.
easily a quagmire and a long slog here
Yeah,
for Putin. You
I've
know,
always said, Ukraine is Cyrillic for Afghanistan. You know, and that's the Vladimir Putin has no idea what he's doing. Frankly. And I think one of the bigger issues at hand we're going to have, I mean, is, we've got with what do we do when the collapse of Russia happens? Because that's going to happen, and there's going to be some humanitarian crises, frankly, in Russia. When this happens, what do we do then? It's going to have, it's going to be, we're going to have to fix it because, well, let's face it, America fixes problems. We're the world's problem solvers. You know, and then we have the on again, off again indictment of former President Trump. I have a feeling he doesn't get indicted. They pulled it again today. They pulled it yesterday. Tuesday. Then they said Wednesday. Then they said Thursday. I think they may have overplayed their hand on this thing. And Alvin Bragg, who is the DA for Manhattan, a city that's seeing high crime, murder rate is up, carjackings are up, everything's up, and he's letting carjackers walk. He's letting criminals walk, but he's throwing the book at President Trump. This is a political witch hunt. I mean, whether you like the former president or not, but I mean, if they could do this to him, they could do this to you too. Frankly.
Yeah, no, I mean it's definitely. I don't know that they, that what's happened this week does make you think that the case they have is not as strong as they
Mm-hmm.
tried to make you believe it was. And there's a lot of pressure, on him from the left about you've got to do this. The left wants to see Trump indicted, but Trump being Trump. I mean, by pushing out there the idea that I could get arrested on Tuesday or whatever and stuff like this, created a whole nother narrative I think that kind of box these guys in a little bit. Like, what do we
Yep.
do now? And and
Yeah,
I think actually all these attacks on Trump, they helped Trump, in his
yes, they
2020
do.
bid, right?
Mm-hmm. And this is bad news for any potential challengers, But this is like they are playing into his hand. They're playing on his turf at this point. He wants to be arrested, frankly. And let me tell you, the trial of Donald Trump will be the trial of the century. It will make OJ look like a Sunday picnic. Maybe we'll bring Judge Ito out of retirement to preside over this, and bring back the dancing Itos. I mean, were they on Letterman or Jay Leno? Who had the dancing Itos? Was it Letterman?
It's been a long
Back in the day.
time.
Yeah, I want to say it was Letterman is what I'm thinking it was. But, I mean, nevertheless, it's like, he wants this because, he'll be able, and then he will probably take the stand and he will say whatever he wants up there.
Yeah,
And
that's yeah, I don't know. I mean,
he's a
Trump
showman.
is he's so unpredictable. I mean, the idea of seeing him in a courtroom talking about anything is like he could easily make the situation worse for himself. Because you know
Oh, yeah, that
during,
too. You could.
during the time he was president, if he had just shut his mouth, a lot of times he would probably still be the president today. He just couldn't help himself
He
by
can't help himself, yeah. It's kind of like, even it's like even after January 6th and all this other stuff, it's like that man, if they banned him from Twitter in 2016 or 2017, he'd still be president probably. And him picking fights with other Republicans, and the name calling Ron DeSantimonious, going after Michael Pence, a very loyal vice president for him, who, by the way, a lot of our conservative friends felt comfortable voting for President Trump after he added Mike Pence to the ticket. You know, um, but I mean, the whole on again, off again indictment stuff—that's kind of funny, though. I think it doesn't happen. If I were to, I say they pull back at the last minute, and this is just a rating stunt by CNN.
Yeah, I mean, an indictment of Trump I think, would wind up being very problematic, and kind
Yeah.
of as you alluded to earlier, it's just that you indict Trump over this, then I think that just opens up the floodgates for just about anything. So, and he's I'll give Trump credit for, using, just using his bully pulpit as much as he's got one these days to go out there and say, talk about, the injustice of all of these things. And uh, he's got enough loyal supporters out there that, that whips up a little extra frenzy.
Hmm.
That puts him in the plus side. Um, you know, I want Donald Trump in my background. I mean, I want him to be the guy that helps the Republican Party, you know, take back the Senate and really run strong candidates instead of just mouthing off and talk,
Oh
just
yeah, it's like we had. It's like people, like if we had better we could have won New Hampshire. We could have won a number of counties, frankly. You
yeah. I
know,
mean, and in general, these days it's like the more pro-Trump candidates that run in a lot of places, the more the Republicans lose.
hmm
Because a lot of those pro-Trump people, they're a little bit on the edge to say the least, and just kind of like they are. I'm not looking for an establishment candidate per se, but you can't. You know, the Donald Trump style message doesn't play everywhere,
no, it
and
doesn't. It does not. And
you'd think the Republicans would have learned a lesson. This has always been the thing about me is that we've run bad candidates before, we lose races, and then we'll come back and run more bad candidates. It's like, did you not learn anything by the last cycle of like candidates A, B, C, D never should
yeah,
have been your nominee?
and they basically, and the problem is they all kind of view that as, and they seem to think it's everything. Oh, David is. We got a visitor. Hold on.
Good.
Hey,
Welcome,
sorry
David.
guys.
Yeah, we're
Yeah, I
talking about.
apologize. It's been
No worries.
a
No
rough
worries.
day, and then I get clipped at the end because then I have to leave at 8. I'm sorry, but
Hey, no problem. No
That'll,
it's
that'll
problem.
keep us
yeah,
on. That'll keep us on schedule. I'm tired today, so I don't want to go past 8.
Yeah.
yeah.
And we had a little bit of a false start, today too.
Well, it's
No,
it was a
we forgot to hit the
productive
go
day.
live button. Yeah,
What
we
was
forgot
that?
to hit the go. We forgot to hit the go live button. So the first 5 minutes, we were just Don and I were just talking.
That was more than that. It's. Well, I think it's more like the first 15 minutes.
Yeah,
We lost.
15 minutes. Yeah,
We
that's
lost.
fine.
That's okay.
Well, it's kind of
Yeah,
gloomy here in Northern Virginia. It's raining all day.
yeah, it's gonna be. But tomorrow's the sun is gonna be coming out tomorrow.
I should have stayed in Arizona. I mean, the weather
Yeah.
was a little bit, but Arizona's having a very cool
It's been
spring.
cold this year. It hasn't been that warm in Arizona.
No, it hasn't been. We've had when we've had some of our 75 and 80-degree days. Those have been far better than what they've had in lots of Arizona. I've got one of my friends out there. She and her husband moved out to northern Arizona about 10
hmm
years ago. Her husband passed away a couple of years ago, but she was just like, I've never seen it this cold, at this time of year. It's, 15 degrees colder on the average, she said. And
hmm
and they've had more rain this year already by comparison. They haven't had this much rain, in the first 3 months of the year since 2016.
Yep.
And that's for just Arizona. That's just they need rain, but they can't. It also creates a lot of other issues. And you know, I'm out there to enjoy myself. It kind of like, I got to adjust the schedule here because we need a good day if we're going to go watch baseball
Mhm.
and
hmm
and whatnot.
Well, I've often said that the global warming crowd, where they could really frighten people, I think, is with global cooling. To me, seems much more of a concern because if we entered another ice age, yeah, that would be massive. Death.
That's what they said all in the '80s when I was in.
Yeah, I was a
All the
kid.
all the Time magazine covers and everything
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But the
You
thing
guys,
about warming, if it warms a little, that's probably good in terms of your growing season. But if we're
hmm
freezing to death, then we will die. So
Yeah, but
I
if we
often
warm
thought
up,
that they should have, if they really wanted to scare people, they probably should have gone with the ice age narrative
hmm
and not the warming narrative. But
exactly. And
they
if it
made a
warms
choice
up,
to go with the warming
yeah, we'll
narrative.
start seeing Georgia-grown oranges. The temperature goes up. We'll have wheat growing in Canada.
Yeah.
and it's not a bad thing. More food production for the world. You know, we'll be
Yeah,
like
and
Archer. It'll be
I
like Archer
think
Daniel Midland's dream. They feed the world.
well, I think we had this discussion before. We were talking about the Julian Simon book, The Bet.
Hmm.
He and
Hmm.
what's his name, Ehrlich. But they talked about these issues. I finished the book not too many weeks ago, and yeah, I thought it was a very good book. They should make a movie of that. I think they'd make a great movie.
Yeah, they
Uh,
probably ruin it though. They probably ruin it though. I
yeah.
have no faith in Hollywood. They just
Hmm.
they ruin everything.
Yeah, but
It's
that's the type of thing that you get to an independent production.
Yeah.
true, true.
Well, they're starting to make conservative movies. D'Souza's had a bunch, and I think there
Hmm.
are people that are there are some conservative movie
Yeah,
makers.
David Bossy's produced a number of
Yeah.
great movies and so on.
Has Ben Shapiro done some of that too?
Yeah, Ben Shapiro. You know who Ben Shapiro? You know where he comes from, right? There's a
Mm.
children's show called Arthur, and he did the voice for the smart kid on the show Brain. And
Oh, I
yeah,
didn't. He's got a good voice. He could be a good
yeah,
cartoon character.
yeah. He did. He did that, and like he talks about it every now and then on his show.
Okay.
You know, and he was saying how PBS was going woke. You know, he goes they were really he goes in the early seasons they actually had stuff that like good family values. Then they started like going off the deep end with stories. Going down the road.
I hear.
But
I hear. I like Ben Shapiro. I listen to him at night, and then the other guy that comes on is Matt Walsh after him, at least on WMAL, the local.
yeah,
Walsh is pretty good.
He's got
yep.
he's got a big following too. So
Yeah.
So they don't have John Bachelor on WMAL after. They used to have Bachelor on after.
I think Bachelor. I don't think they've had him on for years.
Is he retired?
I'm not sure. Something happened there. Yeah.
Well, he's been around for a long time. I don't know how old he is, but
Yeah.
he's got to be getting up there. He's not a young
Yeah.
man anymore. I like him, but
Yeah. I mean, we all age. So at some point in time, you can't go on forever.
Yeah.
but we're old enough to
And
remember Paul Harvey. Remember Paul
That's right.
Harvey?
I remember Paul Harvey. The rest of the story.
Yeah, that's great. He was great. But I'm sorry I
And
held you up. I don't know if I missed any big topics or.
we just talked about the bank collapse in Russia, the Ukraine, and I think we're getting to the point where we could talk about. I think the other big stories of this week is we've got one CNN news crew got robbed in San Francisco. I think it's a little funny that CNN, and I understand CNN is rebooting their network. They had,
Yeah.
I mean, we have more people watching our podcast than are watching CNN at prime time.
Yeah.
I exaggerate a little bit, but it's not that far from the truth.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a stretch.
Well,
CNN's viewership is MSNBC's viewership's not much better. Did they got rid of Rachel Madcow? Right, they got rid of her.
didn't they?
Well,
I mean, she moved on.
she has a different role. I think they're using her for mostly streaming purposes.
Yeah, she wrote a book on Spiro Agnew, by the way, about a year or two ago.
Oh wow.
Yes, it's like come on, you morons, you know, how- you know. Joe Biden makes Spiro Agnew look like a choir boy.
Well,
Charisma, Chinese connections. Spiro Agnew never had any connection with the Chicoms. He never
yeah.
did business with the Chinese. He never did business with Charisma. He never
Yeah.
got his son. What was it? $12,000 a month job or something like that, or
I think more than that. Yeah.
20,000. He got
A no-show
Spiro
job.
never.
Yeah,
A no-show job.
I thought they said what Hunter it was getting paid up to 50,000 or more a month, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. You're 50,000. Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, Governor Agnew, Vice President Agnew, never, ever would have thought of doing something that corrupt and illegal. Taking payouts from foreign governments.
It was Senator Kennedy. He has the best lines, best one-liners. And I remember a few years ago, he's talking about Hunter Biden getting the job, and mockingly say, "What did he apply on ZipRecruiter?" And he got it. That was so funny. He's great with the lines, Senator Kennedy.
Senator Kennedy is amazing because he's tripping up the Biden judicial nominees.
Yep.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, that's right. He asked the one. What would he asked the one? A real basic question. I forgot what it was, but I think it was Article 1, or I mean something really. I forgot what it was, but something really like basic. I was about to say first year law school, but you would know before you got to law school. But I forgot what it was, and she didn't know what it was.
Yeah, and he had that other guy the other day, and he brought up some judicial proceeding, some kind of rule or whatever, and he tried to dance around and say it's like, in my 4+ years on the bench, I've never had to do this, and apparently he got that confused with some other court ruling, which it wasn't. So it's almost like Kennedy and his staff have said, okay, look, let's go in here and let's ask him questions about the Constitution, see if these guys actually know anything about the Constitution, and then throw in a few other things that they should know to see if they remember. They know anything.
I mean, they didn't know about Brady. I mean, that's like crazy. They didn't know, And actually, that's the technicality that'll get a lot of the January 6th defendants off, is the fact that, Brady versus Maryland, where they didn't share all the evidence with defense, And the fact that, Tucker Carlson had the videos of what was happening behind it, kind of like the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say, of that January 6th. I mean, I'm not defending what they did on January 6th, but I'm just saying it wasn't all bad, But we've got, I think, I would love to see Mayorkas impeached, frankly. I wish they would do that, frankly. They really do need to impeach Mayorkas. I think he is a horrible, horrible person.
Who to impeach? I missed that.
Mayorkas.
Oh, yeah.
Mayorkas, our Homeland Security Secretary. I mean, it's like these people, it's almost like, and...
I think you have one Democrat that said he would vote to impeach him. Maybe it was Cuellar.
Oh, really? Cuellar?
There was one Democrat that said, I'd probably go along with it.
Yeah, Henry Cuellar. I mean, he's seeing this firsthand, He represents San Antonio, in Texas. And it also may be political survivorship for him also, because he knows he could not win if he went lefty. I mean, he was challenged from the left by Democrats. He just barely won his re-election, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
This past year.
Did that woman get reelected? Maya, what was her name? Maya Flores. She won the special, and I don't know if she survived in the general.
That's a good question.
Down in Texas.
Maya Flores. I think she lost.
I think she lost that race because wasn't that the race that was, where she won though, when she had to run again.
Yeah, the district got changed.
Under the redistricted seat, right,
with
the new map, and that's the map was too heavily Democrat for her to win.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
And as the other thing you missed, David, in the beginning was, we're all sad. Shamrock Shakes are gone.
Oh,
they're gone. They're gone.
Well, hopefully they'll bring it back. I mean, they say they've retired the McRib, but I think they've got to bring it back.
They'll bring it back next year, and after Valentine's Day in 2024.
Yeah.
It's like waiting for Christmas,
But Dwight, it's a limited time shake. You know it.
I go to the McDonald's
really
by Goddard.
You've got about a month to get it. So
actually, if I really wanted, there's a bunch of other places I can get it too. But I'm working this. I'm making a segue here. So I go into McDonald's, right? Because they got the big sign for Shamrock Shake and this Shamrock Oreo McFlurry. I go in there and they're like, "Oh no, we don't have any more." I'm like, you guys, they raised the price on Shamrock Shakes. Big Macs cost 22% more now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, I'm a vegetarian, so I don't care. When I was more offended they got rid of the Biggie fries, frankly. Although they brought the Biggie fries back as large fries, and they just, I know, Craig. Mint
Mm.
flavor with you. Yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I should do. Years ago, I used to carry my own crushed red pepper for pizza. Like when I was in high school, I don't like pizza without red peppers on it.
Well,
And I'd carry.
I've decided I may have to test this out, Dwight, because I decided while you were talking about it, I'm on the McDonald's app,
Hmm.
and it's showing Shamrock Shake on the app.
Yeah. Well, I know the one in Oakland, Maryland. You can get Shamrock shakes. That Dave Bond told me about that. But and this all goes back to this whole inflation. The whole point about the issues we're having with. I mean, McDonald's. When are they going to raise the price of egg McMuffins? They've raised the Big Macs, but have they raised the price of egg McMuffins? The
Well,
price of
where
eggs
I
are.
feel inflation, and this just shows what a fast food junkie I guess I am, but I really feel it in the fast food. That's where I first noticed. Well, that and gas.
Yeah.
But when I go through fast food, because I eat so much fast food that I can
Hmm.
really feel that when they raise prices.
Hmm. Well,
Um,
I mean, if you look at Taco Bell, when I was in college, Taco Bell, the challenge would be, can you spend $5 at Taco Bell?
yeah, that's right.
And now it's like $5 won't even get you. You get like one. You can't get out the door without paying $10 at least. I think.
Yeah, because I remember the time I could go through. This is way before Biden, of course, but I remember I could go to McDonald's or fast food, and with $5 I'd have enough. five
Yeah.
bucks I'd have.
Hey Don, do they still have the value menu at McDonald's? Everything for $1 on there? Is that
No,
still a
no. I
thing?
mean, so remember, the value menu. I mean, this is something that corporate McDonald's imposed on the franchises because
Hmm.
virtually all McDonald's are franchises, right?
Hmm.
That's the model these companies prefer. Problem was is that even though it drove traffic, it didn't drive profitable traffic because if people would go in there and buy the $1 thing or
So
whatever,
now we know where
and
Subway got their
the
$5 footlong.
costs were going up, and they'd sell you a burger or something like that for $1, for which they were losing money on.
Mm,
So McDonald's corporate finally said, okay, look. So now they have the $1, $2, $3 thing,
Hmm.
which is actually basically all what it does now. Is says this is stuff that's priced around $1. It's kind of like going to Dollar Tree, right? You
right.
so
Hmm.
the drink is $1.39, so it shows up on like the dollar value meal.
Oh,
Menu.
the drinks aren't $1 anymore because I know.
They got rid of that. The franchises, this is. I mean, look, as Dave says, I mean, inflation has hit hard, and so it has driven up the cost for everything. And the restaurant meals, the fast food stuff, has definitely gone up.
Yeah.
We grew up at a time when that fast food also meant cheap, inexpensive food, quick
Yeah,
food.
and remember the cost of this bottle of Coke in a 6-pack form is almost $7 now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you just see a whole different type of thing. I mean, the thing now you should be if you're really loving fast food is that use the app that they
Hmm.
have in the various places and see what they might
Yeah,
have on sale or whatever, and look at that
Yeah.
to try to take your cost down a little bit. And
yeah. And Don, like our friend Chris, he was telling me free fries Friday. He goes,
yeah, I
you
mean,
order that
you have to buy something, but French fries are not that high cost an item, right?
until we
So
become Venezuela when they need to use
sodas are
yuca.
sodas are not really a high cost item for them. But part of that equation of what drives up their costs. I mean, obviously, the pandemic, created a whole bunch
Hmm.
of supply chain issues, and we've gone through, ridiculous, increase in eggs and chicken and meat and things like that. But the wages, right? These fast food chains, depending upon where you are in the country, instead of being able to pay,
Hmm.
$7 or $8 an hour, they have to pay $15 to $20 an hour.
Yeah.
Well, how are they going to absorb that? Everybody who's a customer has got to pay for that.
I mean, Panda Express in Austin, Texas. Yeah, I'm sure it's around here too. They pay their managers $90,000. If you got fast food experience and you're a manager, Panda Express will pay you $90,000 a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's more than what I made working for NET.
Yeah. Me too.
You know.
I will throw a caveat out to that. I mean, you see some of those things is that if you're a manager in a lot of these places and they are looking for more people to become managers of a lot of these
Hmm.
places, is that you're going to be working really hard. I mean,
Yeah.
this is manager is not managerial in this of like
Hmm.
a white collar guy.
Yeah.
You're there doing a lot of stuff, and if your staff doesn't show up, you're the fry cook. You have to
Yeah.
know every aspect of an operation. That is not an easy job managing a fast
Yeah.
food
And
company.
people quit. I
Yeah.
mean, people will quit in the middle of. I've heard stories about people quitting in the middle of what do you call the
Middle of the
lunch
shift.
rush.
Oh,
Yeah,
really? Oh,
Yeah. It's
I
like
mean, when my son worked at the Taco Bell up the street after we moved here, so I would have like
hmm
I've been like 2004, 2005 or whatever.
hmm
I mean, he was always a good hard worker, and
hmm
so they kept saying it's like, oh, you should be a manager. I mean, he was still a student, he was
hmm
trying to finish up high school and whatnot, but he was just like, no. I mean, it was just working there, just seeing the operation. You're like,
hmm
why would I want to do that? Why would I want to aspire to that?
yeah. It's tough. I agree. Yeah.
It takes a special individual to do that. I mean, I
Yeah.
have I have a lot of admiration for people who work in the fast food and anything in the service industry, retail that do those kinds of things because those are hard jobs. You
Yeah.
know.
I agree. Yeah. That is.
hmm And we are getting close to final thoughts, Don.
Oh, how about that?
Baseball season starts next week.
Yep.
Orioles Magic.
And I and I
They
and
open
I
up to the Red Sox.
and I did get to see some of that up close and personal. So after
Hmm.
over 50 years of watching baseball, I took the plunge and since
With the
since
training
since my,
camp.
since my wife has got we pushed and got the companion pass status for a
Hmm
year or so with Southwest, and we've got our son out in Arizona and Phoenix, and
hmm
my sister-in-law in Mesa. We went ahead and bought a ticket and spent a week out there, for which we were able to take in two spring training games. And I'm telling you
Nice.
something, that is it's it's great, but it is just a microcosm of going to a major league game in a sense of the prices are ridiculous to me. You know, I'm looking at how much money are they raking in from this experience. We went to a Saturday game and it was packed. Kind of knew it would be packed on Saturday. And we were there. We were at another park yesterday, and they had a technical sellout. Though I know not all the seats were occupied, but it was it's great for the kids because there's a lot of lawn seats and the players will throw them the ball a lot of times and stuff like that. But you're gonna pay any depending upon they do a little dynamic pricing. Dodgers play, you might have to pay an extra $12 to see the Dodgers or something like that. Pushes prices up. Ticketmaster adds a $25 fee for spring training processing.
hmm
and
And
Chick-fil-A sandwich is $10 to $11, and people are spending all kinds of money. It-
Yeah.
and I'm like, wow, the MLB. I mean, they're make this is a big business.
mhm.
My recollection of when I was a kid growing up, spring training. I mean, that's a chance. I mean, that's how you figured out who you were going to put on your roster and get ready, prepare for the season.
Rotisserie League baseball.
They did not have the stadiums and the setup, and people were not
Yeah.
flocking to Florida and Arizona to watch games. But
hmm
now it's big, unbelievable.
Oh yeah. I
And
had a
there's
friend of mine went down to Clearwater Beach to watch the Astros. You know, last week.
yes, and yeah. So the Astros and the Nationals share a facility. The one we
They
were at
used to be in Brevard County. The Nationals used to be not too far from my home.
yeah, but
In
now it's like this, right, Dwight? I mean, people are more
yeah.
money.
Oh, I mean,
These
I remember there was a
the
guy.
stadium I was in yesterday at the Salt River Fields or whatever. I
hmm
mean, it's on it. It's basically on Indian land. It's part of
hmm
and everything like this. All of it's a beautiful stadium.
hmm
11,000. It seats about 11,000 people, and it's entertaining as well. And yeah, I mean, the funny thing was is that we got there half an hour late because of traffic. We walk in, and the
hmm
Dodgers are playing the Diamondbacks. So the Diamondbacks are the home team. Dodgers scored 3 runs in the top of the first inning, which we missed. When I walked in the stadium, the Diamondbacks had 2 runs. At the end of that inning, it was 10-3.
hmm
Mm.
And You know, you can still go to a Bay Sox game for relatively cheap. You get box seats for $20.
Mm.
That they used to be a
And
lot cheaper though. When I took
yeah,
my
no, usually like
kids, when I took my
$5. You know,
kids, they
you
were
could
a lot.
actually rent out like
But
the
it's
Bay
still
Sox.
fun. Baseball's fun. It's great to
Oh
watch.
yeah.
It is. I mean, I hear the Savannah Banana tickets are like crazy high too.
Well, you got to be on a wait list to get to a lot
Yeah,
of the main thing.
maybe the Bay Sox should do take a page out of their promotion. Maybe they'll just sell more tickets, you know. But
Well,
so let's do final thoughts.
Dave's got to
Yeah,
bop off here in a few minutes. You might want to go to Dave and
yeah, Dave, final thoughts.
Well,
How's
I
your book
think
doing, by the way?
good. I had an interview this morning, and it was at 7 a.m. and it was a radio interview. I don't usually get up that early, and I of course did it. And the lady sent me a tape of it, and I sounded tired. I thought, oh my god, I sound tired. But my head probably wasn't woken up enough. But
were you low energy like Joe Biden?
yeah, I was Jeb Bush, low energy, but I think it was okay. It just sounded kind of tired, but um, overall good. But well, I'm just hoping for a good week, and I think we may not realize it, but we talked a lot sort of about policy this last 30 minutes because we're talking about the effect of inflation, whether it's McDonald's, whether it's baseball prices. And I think a lot of times people should realize that there's there's a cost to all this government, and that's inflation. And I remember telling one guy at a poll, he's a Democrat, and I was passing out my sample ballots, and he was very happy about all the government spending. And I said, well, you know, you can have all the government spending you want, and you'll pay $20 at McDonald's. And so that's sort of the cost, I think, of government is this runaway inflation.
Yeah.
And I think it's the most. I think it's the most important issue, really. One of the most important issues we're facing, at least economically, is this high inflation. Because even if it's kind of leveled off, it's still high. You know, even if it's not 10%. Well, I mean, 6 or 7%, you're still getting hit every month. So, and I don't know about you guys, I'm starting to feel it more and more with my paycheck, and then
Mm-hmm.
what I see, where I am when I get my next paycheck. So I go the 2 weeks, and then after the 1 week, the halfway point, and I see where my money is, I
Mm-hmm.
realize, oh, I'm a little behind. So I think that's inflation that we're getting hit. I'm not
And it's
making
very
less.
hard for the employers to try to help keep you up with that. And it's like, you know, where are they going to get the money to necessarily do that? You know,
Yeah,
if like I said before, if there's a McDonald's something like that, then you know they have to at some point pass those increased costs on. But
yeah,
if you're a nonprofit, say you're, you know, if you're the Heritage Foundation, I mean they're big, but still, you know, if all their employees they're all facing the same
Mm-hmm.
inflation bug.
yeah,
Yeah, and you're not paid that.
Do they
There,
go out
I
to their
mean,
donors and say, "Can you give me
yeah.
7% more so I can help my employees?"
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I mean, and we've all worked in policy. Those jobs are not paid well at all. You
Right.
know, when I got out of school, a job on Capitol Hill was $18,000 a year,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
people wanted that job. Like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, Don hired me, and I was so happy he was paying me so much more than what people in the Hill made. You know?
Yeah. I wonder what it is now. I guess for inflation, it's still probably the same, right? It's still probably.
Yeah. Well, it's still not much more. I don't think it's more than 30,000 though,
Yeah. Okay.
which is still pathetic, frankly. You know.
Yeah. It's tough. And I don't know how people make it on it. I don't know how a lot of people make it.
I
I
mean, also
mean,
for young people today, you know, it's like I was fortunate and able to save almost like every paycheck. I was able to pretty much save about close to 40 to 60% of my take home pay. You know, I was able to save that. But I think today, if I were like starting out today, I don't think I'd be able to, you know, let's say that was about $20,000 adjusted for inflation, about 60 today,
yeah.
25,000.
Well, I guess young people, they live with others. Maybe that's how they can, or live with family, or mostly
Yeah,
with
but I
others. So
mean,
that may be how they
yeah.
can do it. But yeah, that's tough. I just don't know
I
how a
mean,
lot of
Don
people do.
grew up during the 70s also, and you remember hyperinflation during the Jimmy Carter era.
Yes, I've lived through a lot. I've lived through the Arab oil embargo.
Yeah.
But were you driving then? Or you probably weren't driving then, right? During the embargo.
No, but not at the very beginning of it. But
Mm-hmm.
well, you know, because it took place, it lasted for a few years, and so I did get my license by that time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the whole thought. every once in a while you bring up the whole, like, you could only take your car to go get gas based on odd and even days.
Yeah.
That was insane. That was completely insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. Well, guys, it's good. I apologize again for being late and early to
Okay.
go, but look forward to seeing you good next time. Have a good week.
Cool.
All right.
Okay. You too.
We'll see you. Have a
Don,
good one.
final thoughts?
Yep. I kind of mentioned a little bit of it with the spring training. I love spring training. I'm glad I went. I mean, it was a great thing.
It's a
And
once in a lifetime thing. Everybody should do at least once.
yeah, but what we didn't realize, Spencer, I didn't realize at the time, because we hadn't been paying much attention, was the World Baseball Classic. They actually had a pool in which the Team USA was playing in Arizona, and they had played like the week before I got there. I have now put the World Baseball Classic 2026 on my list of things to do if they have any round of games in Arizona.
Oh, is that every 2 years now? World Baseball Classic?
Every it's supposed to be every 4, and this one was delayed because of pandemic.
Oh, okay.
It could be that Spencer will wind up being back in Maryland or Virginia by that time. But then if that's the case, maybe we'll fly down to Florida if they have a game in Florida, because they played games in Florida and then they played the finals in Florida. But
where did they play in Florida?
Were
they in Miami or
I think they were in Miami.
Area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were in Miami. I'm pretty sure. So anyway, that's something that Major League Baseball is committed to holding. Every 4 years. I think it's been great for the sport, especially with Ohtani playing and some other rising Japanese stars that may make it here to the U.S. in the next few years. So that'll be great.
That's something that you don't hear as much. I remember back in the days, a lot of players would go to play baseball in Japan for a couple of years, get their stats up because those are smaller stadiums and so on. They come back to America. I want to say, was it Wade Boggs that did that also for a while? He played in Japan. But I mean, you don't hear any of that stuff anymore. Americans.
Well, I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, there would be American players that would play over there. Some still in their prime, but they weren't good enough to make it in the major leagues. Others past their prime, and they played there. They played in Mexico, but they were limited to 2 U.S. players per team in Japan at the time. And Japanese loved the American player, so it was a win-win. Actually, there was a guy who played in Japan for a few years, did pretty well, and then he came back to the United States and played here for a while because he'd hit a lot of home runs in Japan. He didn't do badly here. He didn't replicate his Japanese numbers, because I think the quality of baseball and here in the United States, Major League Baseball, is unsurpassed. I mean, Japanese baseball is the closest thing to it, and then maybe Korean baseball. But yeah, so you can play in Japan, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can play here. But Ichiro Suzuki was a great. They've had quite a few good Japanese and Korean players come over that were very well done.
Yeah.
And there's several more in the pipeline.
Yes, I remember there was one player that they nicknamed him Godzilla. I'm trying to think of his name, and he was like they said he was like their Babe Ruth or something like that. And they called him Godzilla. That was like back, I want to say it's in the 80s. Back when they had the classic Godzilla before Hollywood ruined Godzilla for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most famous Japanese ball players I got to see play when I was 10 years old, and he was basically Japan. I guess you could say he was I mean, he was the record holder for home runs in Japan, and his last name was O-H. And yeah, that was the guy that attracted me. I said, now these players they're bigger, faster, stronger, and they're just better players. The quality of play is incredible. I mean, look, Shohei Ohtani is like 6'5". For a Japanese guy, what the heck has happened?
Yeah.
He's an amazing athlete. So I have that. My final thing really is just that I see that our wonderful county executives proposing a 10-cent increase in the property taxes. So that's $100 per $100,000 in assessed value. That adds up. It's like,
Yeah.
exactly where does he think the population, the residents of Montgomery County, are going to get this money?
Yeah.
If they actually pass that. I've seen some debate on Next Door, which is not full of conservatives, really.
No, I know. I posted something on there. Somebody was complaining about that. And I said, "That's what you get when you get tax, 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 spend, spend, spend."
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's a harsh reality for the liberals when they see these taxes go up, and what are we getting for it? You know.
yeah, I mean, it's like these people, and they're getting bike lanes. Those bike lanes aren't cheap, people. How
Yeah,
do you,
you
who?
need your bike
Somebody's
lane.
got to pay for that. It's going to be coming from you. Bike lanes. Who do you think's paying for the crazy stuff they do when they come down, break up your street, and they come back 2 weeks later to pave it, and they break it up again 2 weeks after that? Somebody's got to pay for that, and it's going to be you, Montgomery County taxpayers.
Yeah,
But this is where
we
enough.
need more people like Bob Ehrlich, because so we're driving back from the
Yes.
airport, and on the ICC. It's like
Yeah.
my wife she just keeps remarking, it's like, yeah, this is like the Bob Ehrlich highway, kind of thing like that. I mean, if it wasn't for Ehrlich cutting, doing what
Yeah.
he did, I don't know that we would have had the ICC built.
No, we would not have. We would have had a bike path probably instead.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, Old Georgetown Road has a lot of traffic. They're putting bike lanes on Old Georgetown roads, which is insane. And I hear they want to do that on Rockville Pike too. And Rockville Pike is a mess. I don't know if you've ever gone there during the daytime, like try to go from say, I don't know, if you go to Congressional Plaza for lunch and you're over at say NIH or the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, that's going to be a half hour just to get there and a half hour to come back.
I
You
try
know,
to avoid Rockville Pike at all, unless it's like early on a Saturday morning. Sometimes I'm
yeah.
driving back that way after I donate blood, but I'm like,
Yeah, and
I'm
it's
really
always like it's always bad north, but I think after you pass Old Georgetown Road, it's not so bad. But then there's nothing else after that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's just the traffic in this area is horrendous,
hmm
and our elected representatives, our politicians, it's still part of that. We have to be more green and everything like that, and
hmm
you know, get out those bike lanes and e-bikes and everything like this. It's like, this is not sustainable. This is not the way we do things. So,
Yep.
all right, I'm done.
Okay, my final thoughts is one. Just want to let everyone know. 33 years ago today, we said goodbye to Alf. Alf was a great show. I loved it. They had a crossover with Gilligan's Island, and I still miss Alf. Alf, and what was funny is he was caught by the alien folks, the alien task force. In the final episode, he got caught by them. And there is talk about rebooting Alf, but Alf's a great show. But I don't think they can make it as good as it used to be because, again, it is Alf. um, and you can't be. They're too politically correct these days to make a good funny show. It's like History of the World Part Two is on Netflix. I haven't watched it yet, but I can't imagine it being as funny as it was the original because you can't see
I
half the
tried
stuff
to
he's.
watch that, and I'm like, I don't know if I like this. I watched like a few minutes. I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to take another look at that, because the first few minutes, I'm like, this is nuts. I don't know.
Was it very woke?
It's just, I don't know. It's just, it's just when you remember the original one, it's hard to come back and top that at this
It's
stage.
hard to compete with Harvey Korman, who was Captain Monet, and I think Mel Brooks was in it, and B. Arthur, and the horse named Miracle. But great series. All you kids today, watch the original. It's hilariously funny. There aren't too many special effects in there, but it's funny. Also, other final thoughts is shame on you, Governor Moore. You're partying with the Orioles downtown in Florida at the taxpayers' tune of over $4,000 a day for your trips, while Marylanders are paying more than ever for food, gas, and basic necessities. He's wasting taxpayer money partying with the Baltimore Orioles. What's next? In the middle of a snowstorm, he's going to go with Joe Biden to have ice cream in the Bahamas or Aruba, wherever he went. So yeah, and that's about it. Have a good weekend, everyone, and we'll see everyone next Friday. Oh, actually, next Friday I will be on the road to Florida, so it'll be Dr. Jeff and Dr. Don next week doing the show. So enjoy, everyone, and then we'll do our beachside show the following Friday. So okay, great. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.